Nearly didn't turn that on. You're with Julian on the Brown Note and a review of Godzilla vs. Kong. Now, I've been very much on board with this whole, would you call it, as you would call it, a franchise. They started, like, Godzilla seems to be like the Hulk. It's one that they just don't seem to get right. But I had a lot of time for that first Godzilla movie. The biggest mistake they've made in this franchise, they could have kept Bryan Cranston as the lead guy. He was brilliant for about half the film, and they killed him off. And a vacuum appeared in that film. The lead guy, the young, good-looking guy, was so vacant and so dull. And no other characters came forward. And the human element has been the weakest so far across all the films. We have Vera Farmiga and some other non-entities haven't really been. The human element's been pretty weak, but it was a really arsey film. Like, it was quite beautiful. It took way too long to get Kong on board, but a lot of the cinematography and I remember the sequence with the train on the bridge is really stunning. But the second film, the Godzilla King of the Monsters, I've got so much time for. It's the best monster movie with Pacific Rim, perhaps, this century. I don't know why I'm sitting like that. The monster battles in that were just off the charts. It looked fantastic. It looked like a really modernised version of 1950s Japanese cinema. It was fantastic. Again, the human element was the weak link. On the other side, they had Kong Skull Island, a film I gave 0 out of 10 to. I hated it. It was a very different take because they just stacked it full of famous people. People like Samuel L. Jackson are just in there for no reason. And it was just, I said at the time, I was giving it 0 because it exhibited no ambition in any direction. The story was really, let's get to point A and travel to point B, where nothing at all of any interest happens. I hated it. Absolutely. I saw it in the cinema as well. So I really hated that, and I hated the character of Kong, which was sorely underdeveloped in that film. So they've come back together, Godzilla vs. Kong, with a director, Adam Wingard, mostly, who has done really, really crappy horror films, sort of like The Grudge. Nothing at all of note. The Blair Witch reboot, really poorly received. But someone likes him. His next film is the remake of Face Off. So someone liked him to give him this because they actually, it's not a $1 billion franchise and it costs a fortune to make. But it seems to be doing quite well. So this time around, the inevitable, we get Godzilla versus King Kong. And I wasn't holding out too much hope, but then again I was, because if the King of the Monsters crew had been the dominant force, I was hoping for a lot. If the people that made Skull Island were the force, then I wasn't, and I was annoyed that they were going to ruin the franchise. Well, the former is undoubtedly the case. The story isn't too hot. Okay, Godzilla starts attacking humans after 5 years later, after he defeated King Ghidorah. King Kong's kept on Skull Island in a big dome. He's like the hairy Truman Show. To eventually, we realise, not to protect humanity from Kong, but to protect Kong from Godzilla, because they think they're both these alpha titans, that if Godzilla realises there's another alpha titan on Earth, it will throw everything out of whack like it did with King Ghidorah. He'll head straight for Kong and try and kill him. So Kong starts attacking humans, which he's never done before, and we find out that there's this facility way, way, way underground where human scientists are developing an apex titan predator of their own, and that's what Kong is after. They decide to take King Kong on a ship, which is quite something. It's just bizarre. He's on like an aircraft carrier, stonked out on an aircraft carrier, to find this Middle Earth. So they think that Kong and Godzilla and everyone came from this realm in the middle of planet Earth that no one's ever been able to find, and that he'll be safe there, and they can sort of send him on his way, and Godzilla will return to normal and stop attacking everyone, because they don't quite realise that Mecha Godzilla's around the corner, and that's the reason why Godzilla's acting up. So they try and take him, and along the way, in the middle of the ocean, in unbelievably spectacular fashion, Godzilla does find Kong, and they have this battle with aircraft carriers and everything. And it just sort of, it follows the way through. I knew before this film started that Kong would probably team up with Godzilla. I just knew that. I don't think that's a surprise. As soon as they mentioned that Mechagodzilla was going to be in it, I thought this was superb. I thought this was the best one yet. I really like the new humans. They didn't have to, they're not as bad as before, but I actually found them quite engaging. I love Rebecca Hall. I've loved everything she's in. She's a bit sort of girl next door, but always a little bit more than that. And she's the female lead. And Alexander Skarsgård is great in everything I've seen him in. They're kind of like the two adult leads, and then you get Millie Bobby Brown Millie Bobby Brown's like the teeny demographic. And her mate, who is Julian Dennison from Hunt for the Wilder People. They're actually a really appealing pair. They go with this doctor to try and find Mechagodzilla. It's a really interesting plot line because it happens completely separate from the main plot line. And right up until the very last moment, it is a completely pointless plot line. Nothing they do has any impact on anything that happens until one sole moment. It's really weird because I was thinking, if they weren't in the film, nothing else changes. It's like they're doing their own sort of destroy the ring thing with Frodo, but there's no ring and they're not involved in the war or anything. This is spectacular to look at. It's absolutely magnificent. It doesn't quite have the art edge of either the first Godzilla film or the incredibly stunning retro monster edge, but it is probably more breathtaking than special effects. The battles they have are just mind-blowing in scope. Kong really stood out this time. He carries a lot of the film, totally undeveloped. This time around, we're bordering Andy Serkis territory. I really thought he had a lot of personality. We find out that he can communicate with sign language, so he can actually talk to people. The whole Middle Earth thing was absolutely bizarro and really well realised. And the final battle with all three of them going at it, hammer and tongs, was magnificent. I think the music, who did the music? That was pretty decent as well. The whole thing, the whole production value on it was just magnificent. Tom Holkenberg, why do I know that name? Oh, Junkie XL. He actually did the music for another film I reviewed recently, and I mentioned about... Didn't he do the music for the Snyder Cut? I think he did the music for the Snyder Cut of Justice League and was removed and replaced. And then when they released the actual proper Snyder Cut, they actually brought him back to finish his soundtrack. So he's really good as a soundtrack artist. He does the music here. Cinematography is fantastic. The effects and the monsters are brilliant. I felt Kong had a lot more personality. I liked the people on the ground. I thought the story was really fun and an absolute wild ride. And I would say that this may even I don't know if it pips Pacific Rim quite, but it does probably pip King of the Monsters. It's fantastic. It's absolutely state-of-the-art. It's batshit crazy. And I was just gobsmacked by how good it was. So 8.5 out of 10 for Godzilla vs. Kong. I don't know if I played this recently.